Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo. Thank God I'm back, at least for this portion of it, because my God, I listened to last week's intro, and it was an absolute abysmal. Sorry, Ryan. This week, two teams on a look inside, Raiders and Falcons. And because we are only doing two, we had to bring on an electric, absolutely amazing guest. One of the industry goats, Mr. Bob Harris, is with us tonight to talk Raiders and Falcons. Two teams that are weirdly on the cusp of NFL relevancy. Hey, the Raiders have a crap ton of primetime games, so that's good. But Falcons looking to potentially win that division. The Raiders kind of the one really, really bad team that you could potentially say in the AFC West, but still some pretty good fantasy pieces to talk about. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Joe Zolo. For those that didn't watch last week's show, please go back and compare the intros, because it was just, I mean, you would have thought Ryan had an aneurysm and was reading off a script that was written in Braille, and he was dyslexic. It was just
First of all, there is no script. Second of all, I host multiple shows and forgot which one I was hosting and threw everything off.
Fantastic. Well, for this show, Mr. Bob Harris, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, Ryan. Don't worry about it. Intros are never the easiest things for any of us. Joe is lording over everybody. That's okay, man.
That's why he sits on the top row.
That's why he sits on the top row. Hello, Joshua. Nice to see you. So yes, there are some interesting teams here to plumb the depths of. I love that part of it, especially teams that have one guy we all want to draft. But there's others.
Yeah. Just one.
Precisely one.
Just one.
I was going to say, this show probably could be 15 minutes, so we had to bring on somebody that could help us fill some time. Thanks, Bob.
I can do that.
Just one. Yeah. Okay. Let's just get right into it. The Raiders are the first team. Again, 6-11 feels like too good for what they were last year. That doesn't feel right. Feels like they were 2-15. But they were 6-11 last year. Same coach, same offense. Josh McDaniels, head coach. Josh McDaniels offense. So once again, they're going to suck. Quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. Currently, Jarrett Stidham is the backup, who could very well see time. No, sorry, who am I thinking?
No. So Ryan botches the intro. You botched the death.
Yeah. Well, here's what I've been. I was trying to manifest Jarrett Stidham to the Raiders all offseason. That's weird.
Because he had a good game with Davante Adams. That's all we want.
Exactly.
Is for Davante Adams to succeed.
That's
right?
it. Jimmy G. Running backs are Josh Jacobs, Zamir White. Josh Jacobs back after a career year. Zamir White, presumably to see absolutely nothing if it shows what it showed last year. Wide receivers, Davante Adams, same wide receiver one. They go out and get Jacoby Myers from New England, wide receiver two. Obviously, Josh McDaniels used him prior. Should hopefully know how to use him. But then again, didn't we say the same thing about Hunter Renfrow and how McDaniels has known how to use slot receivers last year, and then he just misuses Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow, the wide receiver 3. Austin Hooper and Michael Mayer, tight end 1, tight end 2. Mayer, the rookie out of Notre Dame. Austin Hooper, journeyman at this point. Bounced around a few different teams. Ends up here in Las Vegas. So, my guys, we have Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams are the two. Bob, is there do you have another guy outside of those two that you really want you're just itching to talk about with the Raiders, or are we feeling one of the two, Jacobs or Adams?
One of the two for sure, or both. I mean, you could almost possibly pull that off if you are really a gutsy individual, or also known as not having a great deal of sense. It's great putting all your eggs in one basket. Make it a fantastic basket. But I do think, there's look, we saw it last year, both of them super productive. I kind of feel like, we're not seeing a huge change in circumstances for Josh Jacobs, right? I mean, assuming he signs his tender and assume he will. I mean, we can all, we all said nobody's going to give up that kind of money. And then Le'Veon Bell said, oh, wait a minute. Yes, we will. But I don't think anyone's going to give up that 10.9 million this year. And so he'll be there. If last year he was basically, heading into a contract year, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. We felt like, wow, there was 2 possibilities. They were either going to, it was going to be a timeshare, the New England style timeshare that we all come to hate, or they were going to run the wheels off him, treat him like a rental car. And there was the latter. And, all our angst about the rotation in the Hall of Fame game and all those things, went by the wayside. He was, ends up getting the most carries of anybody in football. I think that is within the range of possible outcomes again. Whether he can maximize those touches this year the way he did last year, we'll see. But I mean, as someone who chases volume relentlessly, I'll probably chase him. And it's the same with Adams. I think that, expecting another ton of targets again is not outside the, it seems like the default position here. And then the rest of them are kind of catch as catch can. I can see maybe Jacoby Myers having some value at some point. I don't want to go overboard. There were probably weeks where I could have played Mac Hollins last year, I guess. Wasn't looking to do it though. And Hunter Renfrow, for all that we've seen, Josh McDaniels over the years take advantage of a slot receiver. I mean, Wes Welker was a thing, and Julian Edelman was a thing. I mean, and even before that. So, I mean, we just didn't see that with Hunter Renfrow. And talking to people who covered the team closely, I talked to Q Myers from Locked On Raiders podcast this past week, and he doesn't see a path to workload for Mr. Hunter Renfrow. And I'm, it's sad, and I wonder if eventual outcome there is going to be. But for now, I think, the fantasy value, I see him really late in best balls, and I'm hoping someone else will take him before I'm tempted to.
I mean, currently on their depth chart, the guy to technically play, they have Myers listed as the guy opposite Devontae Adams. Yes, he can do it, but he's much better in the slot. And I mean, after Jacoby Myers to play opposite Adams, your 3 guys are Keelan Cole, Philip Dorsett, DeAndre Carter. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure all those guys are slot guys, and Philip Dorsett just runs a singular route. So I don't think Myers is almost ever going to see time in the slot. And if he does, who is playing opposite Devontae Adams? There's really, because they don't have Darren Waller to spread out there. It's no Austin Hooper.
They drafted Trey Tucker, who's a burner. So if they want to get him on the field on the outside, that would slide Myers to the slot. They didn't put a lot of capital into him, though. I think, it's decent capital, third round pick. So if they want to get him outside, and that's what would kind of eliminate him. But the other interesting thing is, with them spending the capital on Michael Mayer, do we see them run a ton of 12 personnel and just not a lot of slot guys? And so it's going to be Myers, Adams, and 2 tight ends out there most often.
Not unheard of for Josh McDaniels.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if Hunter Renfrow gets traded either before the season or by the deadline. Like, I just kind of feel like he's the odd man out. And I've heard some rumblings that Philly could be interested too. So I'm like, okay. Because our slot receivers sucked last year. That's why.
Okay. All of our receivers sucked though in New England. So can we just have one? I just want one. That's all.
What was Myers? Was he like, I want to say 60+% slot last year, or was it even more than that? Almost 70. So yeah, it was like 69.5. So
nice.
So yes, and I do think Jacoby Myers is kind of an easily overlooked piece. I mean, he was super productive last year when he was on the field. He got a fair amount of targets in a essentially dysfunctional offense, right? I mean, a coordinatorless offense. Well, it had coordinators. They were just defensive coordinators.
Yeah,
so
the greatest decision ever.
Turns out they're not that good at offense. And we knew Joe Judge, though. We saw what happened in New York the year before. As a special teams coach, he's not a good offensive coordinator. So, but like Bill O'Brien, I give some hope there. But I think in for the Raiders, I mean, I do think that they can figure something out. But if Hunter Renfrow is not there and it opens up slot time, well, I guess it doesn't really matter if Hunter Renfrow is there if they're out on him, right? So maybe there's more to Myers than I think as I sit here and try and talk myself into it. Just based on his production last year, the targets were really good. If he got that number of targets, I just think it's hard to imagine that happening with Devontae Adams. They're hogging them this year. I mean, if he hit 100 targets, it would be a huge shock to me. If he hit 75 targets, Jacoby Myers, I think that would be a good year for him.
Well, he might get 100 targets because I don't know if you've looked at their defense lately, Bob.
True.
But they don't have one. So they could be playing from behind the entire time. But then again, I even think they were a team where it's like, we don't care. We're going to give Josh Jacobs 25 carries.
I was just going to say, the two teams we're talking about today, game script be damned. they're running their play.
But you know what, though? For as great as Josh Jacobs was, like leading the NFL in carries by a fairly wide margin, they didn't run the ball as much as traditional Josh McDaniels teams have in the past. They only had like 402 total rush attempts last year.
I'm going to add Josh McDaniels has never had Devontae Adams. So
but I mean, he got his 150 targets. So, I mean, he's going to continue to dominate like that. I suppose it's possible that Myers could get 100 targets. I guess that is inside.
He's going to like just get there, though. It's not going to be like 120.
I have in my projections, I have him at literally 102. So like just above that 100. So.
Oh yeah. I want to go to the backfield because Ryan, you said Zamir White. You want it to be Zamir White in your my guys section. According to ourlads.com, Zamir White is 4th on the depth chart. So it is Josh Jacobs, again assuming he's all good. Amir Abdullah is the RB2, and Brandon Bolden is the RB3 over Zamir White, who was drafted by Josh McDaniels. Now, granted, Brandon Bolden is the New England sweetheart, and McDaniels had him basically his entire career in New England. So that's not surprising that he's there. But do you even see a path for Zamir White to like even get on the field on special teams?
No, not on special teams, because Abdullah and certainly Bolden would be the guys they would use on special teams.
So are they even going to get him in on offense?
Well, what I'm hoping is that there was some disconnect last year. They wanted to see him grow. He was coming off of
ACL.
Yeah, both ACLs, or maybe it was just the one that was really bad. But regardless, he was coming off the ACL injury. Maybe he just wasn't ready. So if he's getting on the field, it is to relieve Jacobs on 1st and 2nd down, plain and simple. And it's just that they don't want to continue to run him into the ground. He was a damn good touchdown scorer in college. Now it's a little easy when you play for Georgia, but 22 touchdowns in his last 2 seasons. So I hope he can get over the injury and get on the field. There were a lot of his measurables I really liked, but you just never know how these kids are going to bounce back from these injuries. And then you certainly don't anticipate a team giving 80% of their carries to one person. Like, it's just not how the NFL operates these days. So it won't be on special teams, plain and simple. But that's Brandon Bolden all day long.
Yep. We talk all the time, though, about players that are coming into Josh McDaniels' system and how it's so much more complicated and advanced than maybe some other systems in the NFL. I don't understand why we're so incredibly shocked that Zamir White only had
and we saw it multiple times in New England, Joe. Joe, you're one of the ones that's always beating the drum for these rookie running backs to get a shot in New England, and Belichick and McDaniels just would never let them get their try. McDaniels kind of just took that with him to Las Vegas. So,
right. If White is another guy, I mean, you're looking maybe 50 to 75 carries, in that secondary role. And if something though happened, who would you consider the handcuff? I would still consider him the handcuff if something were to happen to Josh Jacobs. So, regardless, I don't think Amir Abdullah is taking that role. Brandon Bolden, I don't see, moving into the lead role if something happens. So, still the second most likely guy that I would draft out of this group. I can't imagine drafting Amir Abdullah.
No, I'm trying to. I'm still buying Zamir White in any dynasty league because nobody wants him. You can find him in waivers in actual dynasty leagues right now, and I want him just because you don't know.
Well, they used Abdullah in kind of that secondary pass catching role for running backs behind Jacobs,
and they didn't use it as much as that we how we viewed that New England offense. Is there was that clear cut 3rd down receiving back. I mean, he was it. They just didn't make that use of him because they were running the wheels off of Josh Jacobs, and maybe they did that. Maybe the wheels have plumb, or all the lug nuts are loosened, and he's just a carry or 2 away from falling apart.
Yeah.
Bob, it's another contract year. Josh Jacobs to the moon, baby.
I hope so. I wouldn't mind that. It's not going to be with the Raiders, right? I mean, once you've done the franchise thing, it's not going to be.
We kind of said the same thing last year. It's not going to be with the Raiders.
No
Here he is back.
Did you guys see the stat floating around? I feel like it was PFF or one of those guys that Jacobs on 200 career targets has 0 receiving touchdowns. I had to go verify that was
Seriously?
correct. I'm like, yeah,
It is,
not one receiving
4 years
touchdown
in the
his
league,
career.
no touchdowns receiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have never guessed it. All right. I want to take it one last thing on the Raiders. I have Jacoby Myers as my sleeper again, just kind of by default. The guys who are my sleepers here are just literally by default because there's no other.
Though I was doing my best backstage to talk Joe into Zamir White becoming his sleeper because he's free, and Joe was throwing names out.
He's being drafted 2 rounds before Sean Tucker, who was an undrafted running back this year. So he's literally being drafted in like the 35th round, which is non-existent for 99% of fantasy football players. So he's free. But we're not gonna play the free game. We'll play the free game with the Falcons almost kind of, but we're not gonna play the free game here. Jacoby Myers. He's currently the wide receiver 54. And when I went through Fantasy Pros or ADP, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like the guys that were around him. Like it was really like, okay, which offense do you like better? What more trust do you have in maybe less of the player, but more of the system that potentially they're in? And that's what leads us into Bob, this is a great game show we like to play in here. It's called Would You Rather. You've probably never heard of it before.
Never heard of it.
It was invented on this show. It's very simple.
Like I'm 100 years old. That this game was invented long ago when I was a small child.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. So on this show,
before we get in though, I have to give you a little bit of I have to own up to something. When you were saying 54, I assumed you meant that he was going 54th overall, like 5th, 6th round, not wide receiver 54.
Wide receiver 54.
I am now okay with him being your sleeper. I misunderstood.
Oh. You thought he was going in the 6th round? That's
I'm like, how is he a sleeper, bro?
Dude, that would be DJ Moore, Chris Godwin territory. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 54. I'm going to go up to 52 and then down to 56. All right. And that's where we're keeping it. That is about within the 11th or 12th round, depending on how big your league size is. Okay. Wide receiver 52. Bob, you don't even have to give me an explanation if you don't want to. Just who would you rather? Odell Beckham Jr. or Jacoby Myers?
I'll go with Beckham just for the upside.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, OBJ.
Josh?
Also OBJ. He has a shot to be the actual wide receiver 1 on his team. I don't believe Myers does.
I will go Odell as well. And yeah, and again, I forgot to set the tone. We're looking at probably a 4th receiver.
Yeah.
A deep flex guy. So you want the upside here, obviously. And that's why I'm like, I don't really like it here. 53. Tyler Boyd or Jacoby Myers? Bob?
I'd probably take Boyd, just a better passing attack.
Ryan?
I think this is where I would go with Myers. I'm starting to cool on Boyd a little bit, and I'm wondering how the Bengals are going to make T. Higgins very happy this season. So.
Josh?
Myers, but I don't love it. You could easily talk me into Boyd, in all honesty. I think both are gross. I wouldn't want to start either of them.
Well, I'm going to lean Bob. They got the better offense. They got the better quarterback. They got the better everything.
Let's be clear. If you're choosing between Josh and I or Bob, Bob is probably the right
Bob's the answer.
I was going to say, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is almost as handsome as Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, not nobody is as handsome, but almost. I mean, it's a better offense.
Joey Burr.
And the whole Garoppolo thing is a little worrisome, but I do think it's being a little overblown. The foot issue. We got very excited because of the contractual language that protects the Raiders.
Exactly.
I think maybe that's a little overblown. I think what Josh McDaniel was saying about that was like, I have some inside info. Pretty sure he does. I'm pretty sure they would not be going into going in with Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell as the only other quarterbacks on the roster if that was the case.
Yeah, that might not be the best decision.
You'd be surprised. Okay, you would be surprised.
Maybe.
We went into the season with Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, and Brian Hoyer. Okay, you would be shocked to know what the hell happens in New England. I am every day. Jacoby Myers or Zay Jones? Bob?
I'll take Myers there.
Ryan?
Yeah, Myers.
Josh?
Myers.
Though I do think Zay Jones will be better than people are giving him credit for. I'm just in love with that offense.
I think the only way that happens is if the Jaguars approach 700 pass attempts.
Might be different in best ball though. I mean, if he's like my fourth or fifth receiver in best ball, maybe I just take, depending on how my roster is constructed, maybe Jones would, be viewed as a little more of an upside play. I'm told Jacoby Myers does not score a lot of touchdowns. I don't know.
He had 6 last year.
Yeah, it was the first time.
Yeah, 6. He has 7 in his whole career. So
8
3
actually.
8. Yeah, 3 of them are passing touchdowns. I mean, am I contractually obligated to say Zay Jones because of how much
I think you are
last year?
There is no bigger Zay Jones.
I have to say Zay Jones because I was higher than everybody was on him last year, and it hit. So I guess I have to say Zay Jones. Sorry, Jacoby, but Zay Jones. Last two interesting. They're both Kansas City receivers, so I'm gonna just put them all in one here. Sky Moore and Rashee Rice are 56 and 57. I'm going to throw let's do all 3. Would you rather Jacoby Myers, Sky Moore, or Rashee Rice? Bob.
That's horrible.
Yep, it's really bad. Yep.
If it was season long, I might actually lean Myers just, if I needed a body to fill in for bye weeks and not take a 0. If it was best ball, I'd probably go with either of those other 2 just for the obvious reason.
Ryan?
I am a sucker for rookies on the Kansas City Chiefs. Give me Rashee Rice.
You want to know where he went? Where'd he go, Ryan? Where'd he go to school?
I don't even remember.
Where'd he go? Josh, where'd he go to school?
SMU,
baby.
I blanked for a second.
Right up the street from me.
Oh, really?
Wide receiver university.
Joe has a thing for SMU wide receivers.
Cortland Sutton, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. Dogs only come out of there. Josh.
Oh, Joe, did you forget one? James Prochet, does he not fit
James
the category?
Prochet. Oh, you know why? Because the Ravens don't give that motherfucker a shot. That's why.
I would probably lean Myers. I'll agree with Bob. When it comes to best ball, I probably would lean the Sky Moore Rashee Rice angle.
It would be the more portion of that for me, by the way. Sorry, Rashee.
That's fair. I want to see. I was Sky Moore last year. I'm Rashee Rice this year. I'll jump to their next rookie next year. It's just I'm going to be that kind of whore. So.
Contractually obligated to say Rashee Rice
Yeah.
because of SMU. I would probably take Jacoby Myers for the reasons of consistency.
Oh yeah, he's the better pick. Let me be perfectly clear.
Oh yeah. But on the off chance Rashee Rice hits, he's on your bench. You're not starting him. So is what it is. Okay. On to, and sorry, my IDP players of note. Max Crosby and Divine Diablo, they don't have a defense outside of that.
Yeah.
So
Divine Diablo, so good. Not that Max Crosby isn't, but Divine Diablo almost came out of nowhere.
No, he did come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He didn't almost. He did come out of nowhere and then got injured. So Max Crosby, pound for pound, might be the best pass rusher in the NFL. I said it on another show too. He might be the best pass rusher in the NFL. So in a sack-heavy league, that's your guy. They've double-teamed him. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. He is an absolute madman. So IDP, there you go. Atlanta Falcons, to a team that literally has no pass rush. I think they ranked dead last the last 2 seasons in pass rush or something like that. They are so low.
Their sack numbers last year were like comically low.
Yeah, it was. I think they averaged 1 sack a game, something like that, just over 1 sack a game. It was atrocious. They have no pass rush. They went and got help this year, but we'll get there in a second. Arthur Smith, same coach, same offense. Both head coaches of these teams are calling the offensive plays. That's my biggest issue with both of these head coaches. They won't hand off the offensive play calling. That then hinders, and they have too much on their plate. If they actually got in a real offensive coordinator in there, I guarantee you they're better. That's I truly do. I don't think Arthur Smith is a bad coach. I think he just needs some help.
Matt LaFleur thinks and Sean McVay think you're full of it. So does Kyle Shanahan. Say, shut up, Joe.
How many blown Super Bowls does Kyle Shanahan have?
He's got to some.
Certainly more than one.
McVay's the only one that can really speak on it. Desmond Ridder.
Andy Reid.
No, he has Eric Bieniemy as his offensive coordinator.
He's calling play.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is calling plays.
He is calling plays. Does he have an offensive coordinator on staff?
Right now, he's got Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he have an offensive coordinator on staff last year?
All of those guys that you mentioned, they
have offensive coordinators. Yeah, the only team in the league that didn't have an offensive coordinator was the New England Patriots. We've covered that already.
No, Cliff Kingsbury didn't either.
Oh, that's right. Didn't he have an assistant head coach or something like that, though? I thought he had something there. But
Desmond Ridder, quarterback 1. Dog. I don't care about Desmond Ridder anymore because I got him off my dynasty team. So
he's dead to us.
See, bro, we're good. Thanks for playing. Bijan Robinson, RB1, and apparently the RB1 in every fucking draft at this point for the Atlanta Falcons. And RB2, Tyler Algier. Not gonna lie, I mean, Bijan is obviously hyped up. The backfield is like, if Bijan goes down, it's not like they're...
Or if they run the wing T.
Hell yeah. Light them up. Run the wing T.
Drake Can't London. Wait for the 22 personnel that Arthur Smith is going to trot out with Jonnu and Pitts and Algier and Robinson, baby.
And Drake London out there.
And Drake London spread out wide.
Drake London, the lone receiver.
I guess what we're hoping for is at some point, you give enough top talents at each position. Maybe Arthur Smith can make this all work. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hasn't yet, but he has. He's found the lane and it's running, and they got the offensive line to do it. And now they want to use Bijan Robinson in ways that aren't running, and I don't know. So we'll see. Arthur Smith, apparently a genius. I would like to see signs of that.
I love it.
I guess it's easy to be a genius when you have Derrick Henry. You just hand him the football 100 times a game. That's pretty smart.
He got 7 wins out of Marcus Mariota starting 13 games last year.
Fair point. Like I feel like I'm slagging him a little bit because I was kind of a supporter when they hired him, and I thought it was maybe a good move, and I thought maybe he was actually a pretty sharp offensive mind. And look, he may still well be. I don't know. It's just like when you keep adding these great pieces and then you do nothing with them. And I know you need a quarterback at some point. Is it this year that you have to have that quarterback, or can Bijan Robinson fix that, or maybe Desmond Ridder is better than we all realize? I don't know. That seems like the least likely of those things. But at some point, I mean, you've got a bunch of talented guys, great offensive line. I'm expecting a little more.
They do have 2 fullbacks on the roster. So,
well, and I guess I should go back and say, like, he was all the coaches that had Cordero Patterson on their rosters, including the great Bill Belichick. It was only Arthur Smith that kind of twisted that Rubik's Cube of abilities and figured out the lanes that he drove in, right? So, like, everyone knew Cordero Patterson could do some things. He could run down the field. He could maybe run certain routes reasonably well. He could handle some portions of the running back role. And Arthur Smith somehow cobbled those together and turned them into at least one really good season. So there's that. And so I guess maybe I should give him more credit than I'm giving him right here.
I believe we were the first team to actually put Cordell Patterson as a tailback. So we did it for like 12 carries, but we did it, and everyone hated it because he couldn't exactly read the blocking. He just ran straight. Yeah. So, but that's okay.
Average 5.4 yards per carry that season.
He did. Greatest kick returner ever. Yeah. You can't prove it otherwise. Gale Sayers would have been the only guy if he stayed healthy his entire career. Drake London, wide receiver 1. Mac Hollins, wide receiver 2. You want it to get worse? Scotty Miller, wide receiver 3.
Scotty Miller season. It's here. It's time, people.
About time.
You want it to get worse? Kadero Hodge. I mean,
why are we even talking about the wide receiver for? Keep it moving.
I'm just gonna say I'm not here for the Kadero Hodge slander. Just not gonna happen.
Ooh, I like it.
We got a truther.
So Bob, he's being drafted as the wide receiver 155. Can I count on him to be
I'm all in.
Okay,
yeah, I'm all in.
At that price, hell yeah.
Yeah. The true probable wide receiver 1, Kyle Pitts, and Jonnu Smith, tight end 2. He's there to block, presumably. I mean, they got him for a 2024 7th-round pick.
He's there for 5 tight end around carries. That's what he's there for.
I was just going to say, that's somebody Arthur Smith actually has used creatively in the past, which was the whole reason Bill Belichick went out and way overpaid for him.
Yeah, way overpaid. That's still one of the more befuddling when they did Hunter Henry and him in back-to-back days with.
And they gave Smith more money.
Enormous contract.
Shut up. That was like when the Red Sox signed fucking Pablo Sandoval for all that money and then got rid of him in like 2 games. Like, why? Oh, terrible. We still can't use Hunter Henry correctly. Brutal.
Wait till you see how they use Mike Gesicki.
Hold on. Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry.
Precisely the same way as Jonnu Smith.
Dude, imagine going into the season thinking that Tyquan Thornton, Mike Gesicki, and Hunter Henry are the fucking answers. Hey, imagine.
Tyquan Thornton is the answer. Everyone.
I am pro Tyquan Thornton.
guys, I like Tyquan Thornton too. But when your leg is as skinny as the wire on my mouse, it doesn't really bode well for health and longevity. So I need him
he's
to
like twice as big as Tutu Atwell. Good for him.
I was going to say.
I just took him in the 20th round of a best ball this morning. Felt really good about it. Nothing you can do can sway me, Joe.
Listen. I need Bill O'Brien to unlock Mac Jones, please, because if not, I'm going to be chanting Bailey Zappi again in week 4 because I'm done with Mac Jones' bullshit. They need to let him throw. Or this isn't the Patriots show. Everyone should. This isn't the Patriots show.
I was going to say, this has been the most Patriots, non-Patriots show ever.
What do you want to talk about with these teams, Ryan? There's 2 players. What do you want to talk about? Josh, you have Kyle Pitts. Ryan, you have Drake London. Bob, I'm going to ask you again. Is there anybody outside of the 2 main people that you would say is your guy
there's 3
for the team?
There's zero of them. Sorry. 0 of them outside of the top pieces. Those 3 pieces. Like Desmond Ridder, I could see drafting as a guy I think has pretty good job security as like my 3rd quarterback in a 2 QB league. I mean, and hoping that maybe the pieces around him can carry him to some degree. At some point, we think the talent around a quarterback is capable of carrying him. It never seems to work out the way I like it to, but as like a quarterback 3, I can do that.
I'm treading into dangerous water here, disagreeing with Bob, but I don't know that his job security is all that great with Taylor Heineke behind him.
So that is no, I don't disagree with that. I think it's pretty good, but I don't think it's rock solid. That's why you'd be a 3 instead of a 2.
Yeah.
The only thing Taylor Heineke is going to do is get them a top 5 draft pick.
We've seen Taylor Heineke play well enough.
What is with the Taylor Heineke hate from you always? Josh, he's not. Hey, does he find a way to win fucking games? Yeah.
Does he? What's his career record, Joe?
Better than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. Dude, he took a team to the playoffs. Like, he finds ways to win games. Is it pretty? Fuck no. Listen, he finds ways to win games. Jared Goff and Taylor Heineke are the same quarterback, okay?
He's the definition of average. 12, 12, and 1 on his career.
Boom.
What was the Falcons' record last year? 7-10. If they were 9-8, would they have won that division? I'm just saying. You don't have to be good to win the division.
There's a comment here in the chat that merits our attention. Younghoe Koo has not been mentioned. Neither was Carlson, and the 2 most
might be the best 2 fantasy assets on those teams.
Well, what you have to know is we weirdly have a lot of Falcons fans that fall. It's very I don't know how we got all of them. We have a lot of Falcons fans. Elixirs is the main one. He's been with us for a couple of years now. Younghoe Koo is just always in the conversation anytime we're talking kickers or Falcons or tight ends.
He might be in a good spot with maybe a little more offense, a little more Bijan, and Carlson, of course, is like top notch. What do he make, like 41 in a row? Come on, people. Somewhere Jake Seeley is like cursing at me just because I'm mentioning kickers.
I was gonna say we're a pro kicker show, but that's not true. Me and Joe are pro kicker. Josh is very anti-pro.
I'm pro punter. I think we should add punters.
My fantasy care eliminators would agree with that.
There you go.
Needs more punters.
Fantasy football needs more punters. Make that a shirt. Fantasy football needs more punters. Oh,
hey, we got the 3 of us and Linda. I say we just kick Josh off the show.
Yeah. Fuck you, dude.
I will happily give Linda my seat.
Yeah. Linda knows.
She does.
Bijan, I want to do a couple different.
Well, Joe, before you throw this out, because I know we're going to have some fun with Bijan talk, but on the mock draft show on Monday, I was a little struck. It was our first redraft mock of the season, and obviously ADP is going to swing wildly before we get closer to the actual drafts. But Bijan on Sleeper right now is like the RB7 and went off the board with the like 8th pick as the 4th or 5th running back. So ADP has not caught up to the hype around Bijan Robinson quite yet.
So you're saying he was
redraft, clearly not dynasty.
He was RB7, 8th
via
overall.
ADP. He was behind 6 other backs in ADP, and then in the draft itself, I think he went behind Eckler, Saquon. I think he went behind JT and CMC. So I think he went 5th in that draft.
So he's currently RB3 according to Fantasy Pros.
Okay, interesting.
So where we rarely ever do this with a first round pick, but it feels unprecedented. I can't remember the last time a rookie running back was being drafted this high in redraft. It just feels like
we flirted with it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire based on draft slot. He got up to the back end of the first round.
It's like when it's high 6, I saw.
I think it was probably Saquon 4 years ago was probably the big hype. So,
and then Zeke probably too, the year prior. So I think we got to go back to Saquon's rookie year, which it's 4 years ago now at this point. So would you rather Christian McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson, Bob?
Come on now, child, please.
I have to ask it because I guarantee you there are people literally contemplating that, and it's stupid. But that's why I have to ask it.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm going McCaffrey myself, and I hope everyone else is as well.
He broke out the Chad Johnson child, please. I love it. Ryan.
Oh, it's Christian McCaffrey by a long shot.
Josh.
It's CMC.
Nobody's worried about his injuries?
Nope.
What injuries?
Yeah, exactly. Austin Eckler or Bijan Robinson, Bob?
The touchdown regression is going to come at some point, but it didn't come last year, did it? And I felt really stupid by insisting it would. I'm probably still leading Eckler for me.
Ryan.
Bijan's my 2. Give me Bijan.
Josh.
Eckler. I have him about 32.5 points ahead of Bijan.
Eckler had less than 900 rushing yards, I'm pretty sure, and was the RB2 on the year.
RB1 on the year.
He was RB1 last year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my bad. I thought it was... Oh, JT was RB1 the year prior, and he was 2. That's my bad. I got them confused. Thank you. Bijan or Saquon? Bob?
I'm slightly into Saquon. Just a little better team. We're getting into the territory, though.
Ryan?
It's Bijan.
Josh?
Haven't done the Giants yet, so I'll stick with Bijan for now, but I can potentially change that opinion later.
I will probably go Bijan. I'm always worried about a Saquon injury. He looked very good last year.
It's not even an injury thing for me. I'm really interested to see what this great rookie running back can do with the team that is willing to run the ball more than any other team in the league. I think it's an interesting scenario.
Now, for me with Saquon, you have a legitimate wide receiver 1 there now with Darren Waller, which they did not have that.
I'm like running through my head, Josh. I'm like, who the hell is he talking about?
Hey, we know this is a pro Jalen Hyatt show, but that's not the point of getting it.
Isaiah Hodges is great.
Come on, everybody.
We love Isaiah Hodges.
The bus on this one. It's super close. Again, I'm just not entirely sure, how much, they talk about this role for Bijan. And look, I get the generational talent thing. Also, the team success matters as well. So we'll see. It's very close. We're splitting hairs here.
So last one, because I think this is interesting because I know this is Ryan's guy.
Okay, so this is the one I didn't want you to bring up because this one goes against everything for me.
Bijan Robinson or Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor is currently overall going 16. So he's going middle to early second round, depending on the size of your league. Which the last time he was going in that area, he was the RB1. So, knowing that nobody repeats as an RB1, so Eckler obviously won't be the RB1. Nobody repeats, as we know. Bijan Robinson or Jonathan Taylor, Bob?
I'll probably slightly into Bijan, very slight.
Ryan?
I can't let Jonathan Taylor slide by me in any fantasy draft ever. It's Jonathan Taylor, even though Bijan is my RB2. I'll still take the wrong pick.
Gosh.
I have Bijan 45 points higher than Jonathan Taylor.
Ooh.
Taylor's not going to have any receiving work. So unless he runs for 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns, I don't see.
I see some people that are, worried like Anthony Richardson's maybe going to, cut into the opportunities, whatever. And he may well, but also defenses are going to have to account when they're at that mesh point on the RPOs. And that's going to really work out well for Jonathan Taylor, I'm guessing, and also some for Anthony Richardson at some point.
Anthony Richardson opens up rushing lanes. Yes, right. He steals carries, but at that same
also,
point,
exactly,
you'll let him steal 6 to 8 carries a game if that means Taylor's average yards per carry goes up 2 yards. like that. There's a legit shot that.
I was going to say I could definitely see a world where Jonathan Taylor averages 6.3 yards per carry this year with Anthony Richardson. I can see that.
You have to worry about.
I wouldn't bet on it, but I can see it.
You have to worry about 2 running backs. You have to. So, and then
for me that floor is, or that ceiling isn't quite as high because I don't think he tops 40 targets.
I feel in addition, one of them, has a better offensive line than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Atlanta's offensive line is very, very good. Very, very good.
The one thing I'll throw out where it's easy to sit here and say, Jonathan Taylor's not going to have targets. But the thing is, the other thing that's not there anymore is a second running back to come in on passing downs. They're not putting Zach Moss or Deion Jackson out there over Jonathan Taylor. There's a legit chance Jonathan Taylor plays every snap if he's able to this year. And I think that's another, because it's a new coaching staff. Because watching the Colts even 2 years ago during Jonathan Taylor's RB1 season was infuriating because they literally played those guys in spurts. It wasn't bring in Nyheim Hines on third down. It was run Jonathan Taylor for 3 straight plays, then bring in Nyheim Hines for 3 straight plays. And they had a third back there whose name's leaving me right now, but they would bring him in just as much. And it was infuriating to watch. So I think the most interesting thing about seeing Shane Steichen come in here is maybe, and I know we've seen it in Philly where he kind of still split things up a little bit, but Jonathan Taylor's a better back than Miles Sanders. So.
Yep. Last one I want to do is Drake London because he's currently going as a back end wide receiver 2. He's wide receiver 23. He's currently going, if you're in a 10-team league, in the 4th round. In this section, 4th round tends to be a pretty heavy spot for wide receivers normally because normally your really good running backs are gone. The teams that went running back earlier are looking to go receiver. You're not drafting a tight end in the 4th round. There's no one you really want. And it's too early for a quarterback. So that is normally the hot spot for receivers. So I want to know where in this hot spot does Drake London fit for you guys? Because I really do think he vies for a pretty good spot amongst some of these names. I'm going to start at 40th overall and go down to 48, which is wide receiver 20 to 26. Drake London is smack in the middle at wide receiver 23.
My goodness, Joe, you are not kidding when you say it's a hot zone. It's all wide receivers in the 40s.
It is all wide receivers except for pick 44, 45, and 49.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All wide receivers. So, you're looking at mid-round running backs, some dummy taking a shot on a tight end, and maybe a homer taking a quarterback. That's what you're looking at. So, Keenan Allen or Drake London? Ryan, you don't have to answer. I don't have to answer. We know the answer. Yeah. Bob, Keenan Allen or Drake London?
Keenan Allen.
Okay. For Josh?
I do have London 6 points higher.
You're such a dick. You're such a dick. You're wrong.
I'll be the contrarian one. It's okay.
You're just wrong. Bob, Christian Watson or Drake London?
Drake London.
Ryan?
Very much Drake London.
Josh?
Drake London.
I go Drake London as well. Jerry Jeudy or Drake London? Bob?
Drake London.
Ryan?
It's closer, especially if the Broncos move a receiver, but for now it's London.
Josh?
London.
I will also go Drake London. Those are the 3 guys being drafted, again, 1 to 2 spots ahead of Drake London. Now going a little bit after him, but still in the 4th round. Drake London or Mike Williams? Bob?
I'll go ahead and go London here just because he's the de facto wide receiver 1, I hope. I know Kyle Pitts is there. I'm going to go London. It's pretty close.
Ryan?
Very close, but I'll go London.
Josh?
London.
It's not close. It's Drake London. Mike Williams is irrelevant outside of a contract year. So it's irrelevant outside of a contract year. Christian Kirk, who had a career year last year, or Drake London. Bob.
Drake London, although I do love that Jaguars offense.
Ryan.
Yeah, I don't see the Kirk regression that other people do. I would take Christian Kirk in this situation.
Josh.
I'm excited to get to projecting out the Jags, but for now, I'm going to go Drake London.
I feel like there's got to be some regression with Christian Kirk, so I'm going to go Drake London. I think teams are now probably going to respect Christian Kirk a little bit more. They probably didn't respect him a lot last year. So I think Drake London here. Last one. Terry McLaurin or Drake London? Bob.
Terry McLaurin all day long.
Ryan.
Ooh, I'm actually going to go look at my rankings.
I mean, Terry McLaurin, the perennial, like,
1,000 yards a year. 1,000 yards a year.
Yeah. I think I'm still going to go McLaurin here.
Josh.
London.
I will go Terry McLaurin as well. And the reason why this is interesting, outside of Keenan Allen was a pretty obvious one outside of Josh. Yeah. Outside of him and Christian Kirk, the quarterback situations are all not great.
I think the biggest takeaway from that is, are we overdrafting the hell out of Christian Watson? I feel like he's the name that doesn't belong when it comes to this group of names, with all respect to what he did last year. There's a lot of questions about that offense for him.
You mean what he did in 4 games?
Yes.
That's fair too.
So, it was 7 touchdowns. It was not bad.
So this is interesting because Christian Watson is currently the wide receiver 21. If we keep going down, I think we're all almost in agreement that we're probably drafting all those guys we mentioned over Christian Watson. What's the name that stops us is the question. Wide receiver 29 is Michael Pittman. Is anybody taking Christian Watson over Michael Pittman?
I'm not.
Wide receiver 30 is Tyler Lockett. Is anybody taking Christian Watson over Tyler Lockett?
Taking Lockett.
Marquise Brown, the now wide receiver 1 in Arizona.
I might take Watson there.
Okay. Ooh, interesting. See, and there's similar situations. You hope Jordan Love is the better quarterback.
So
I feel like we don't have enough information to know what Jordan Love is, but I feel like the Packers' willingness to move on from Aaron Rodgers suggests they know more about it than we do.
And we certainly know who the Packers are versus what the monstrosity could be, the Arizona Cardinals.
We know the Cardinals are tanking, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, they're totally tanking. So, there's that.
I can see Bob's side of it. I still think I would go Hollywood.
So there's a weird outlier here, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I feel like that's a weird outlier because then you go Brandon Ayuk and Mike Evans. I feel like JSN's a weird outlier right there because he's the number 1 rookie wide receiver.
In there.
Yeah. So, but like Ayuk and Evans,
I'd probably take both of them.
Yeah.
Over Watson.
Deontay Johnson.
Still, yes.
Certainly. Yeah.
I think this is where it breaks up. The next 3 are Kadarius Toney, Jordan Addison, and Treylon Burks.
That's exactly where he belongs, ahead of those guys behind everybody else. So.
And there's one weird guy. George Pickens is in there, and I feel like George Pickens is getting underdrafted.
I feel like that too.
I think George Pickens might be the best dynasty asset in the whole world, right, Josh?
I got him. But yeah, so currently
I've
Christian
moved
Watson,
him in most of my dynasty leagues. So
Christian Watson is wide receiver 21. Where we believe he should be drafted is wide receiver 36.
Yeah.
I feel like that's closer to where he's going, like on best ball.
I was just going to say, I wonder where he is an underdog, and then even like
I'm checking best ball 10s. I have that up in front of me right now, so let me just check real quick because I felt like he was going later in those. He's 30 in those, just ahead of Lockett, or just after Evans, London, Lockett. Just ahead of Christian Kirk and Deontay Johnson, Ayuk, and Pickens.
You see, and I get people are worried about Lockett because of Jackson Smith and Jigba. So there's at least some questions.
Don't be.
Don't be. You don't have to convince me, but I know this is the statement that's coming out right now. And so I get it. And maybe, again, Christian Watson did it in such spurts last year, and you just wonder, is it going to translate?
He's a great talent and clearly super athletic and has all the ability and speed, size and speed, right? There's 2 things you can't coach in the NFL, and he has more of both of those things than most guys in his position. But also, there's a lot of questions there. I just wonder if this is not going to be a Green Bay Packers offense is dominated by the backfield more so than the receiving core. And that's how I'm investing in this offense anyway, until I know more about Jordan Love. I mean, look, I think the Packers probably, again, know more about him than I do. I'm willing to wait a year to figure that out. And if I miss on, Christian Watson this year because of that, I will congratulate whoever took him and move on to next year and figure things out then.
A couple things before we wrap up with Elixir's question. Matt Collins is the sleeper. You want to know why? He's wide receiver 99.
Yeah. While being the wide receiver 2 on his own team, which is nuts. So
you just, I think Elixir's brought up. He said, can't wait for the hell Matt Collins down there somewhere.
Exactly.
So it worked last year. Matt Collins has a spot in the team. My IDP player note, as much as I dogged on the Falcons pass rush, they actually heavily addressed it in the offseason. Their defensive line isn't bad. Calais Campbell's like an absolute stone ancient figure at this point, but still playable. David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett are two very good interior defensive linemen. Bud Dupree, I think, is hot and cold, but they address the pass rush, which means Troy Anderson will have a field day.
I didn't see if you had it in the show sheet, and I'm like, if this man does not say Troy Anderson, I'm ending the show.
So contractually,
Jesse Bates would have been acceptable. I know Joe loves Jesse Bates. So.
Contractually, I have to say Troy Anderson. I legitimately think Troy Anderson actually has a good season.
I think he's going to be great.
I think he's going to have a great season. Jesse Bates, I wasn't too sure. Normally, the strong safety in this defense is better historically in the Falcons defense. Richie Grant is just all over the field. So that's my worry on Jesse Bates. He'll still be great football wise. But
one more time, please, Joe. How did we characterize Calais Campbell?
Stone, ancient, and old.
So the man 25 years younger than me. You ageist.
So let me rephrase that. Stone, ancient, and old in the football world.
Yeah.
For a football player.
Fair enough.
A defensive line. It still amazes me at 6'8", 330 pounds. He can just move like that.
He's a massive human being.
He's literally a power forward.
From the U, baby.
I run circles around him, just so you know.
But you probably would.
I believe it, Bob.
He's too big. But ending on Elixir's question before we get to Ask Me Anything. This is a great question. Can Pitts and London succeed at their ADP at the same time? So we talked about Drake London's ADP, which is wide receiver 23. Currently, as a tight end, in PPR scoring, Kyle Pitts is going tight end 5, which sounds high, but it's the middle of the 7th round. So he is now sitting there as that vaunted mid-round tight end. He's going around Dallas Goedert and Darren Waller. And
all
George
due
Kittle.
respect to Fantasy Pros, that is not my experience in drafts right now. Pitts is still going 4th, 5th round pretty easily, though.
Okay, there you go. So let's peg him 4th, 5th round. Let's just peg them both in that 4th to 5th round range because Drake London is also going in that range right now. Bob, do you think at their ADPs they're worth it for their respective positions?
They're worth it based on their talent, but not all of them are going to hit. Not all of them are going to pay off at their ADP. Assuming Bijan does, then all of them will.
Ryan?
My issue is with Kyle Pitts. I haven't seen greatness from him. I've seen goodness, and all of those mid tight ends, they're traps. It's Travis Kelce or it's no one. And so, no, I don't think Pitts, where he's going right now, can live up to his ADP because for that price, you're comparing him to Kelce, and he ain't going to hit that. So I much prefer London at that price.
Josh?
He's still a top 2 target on his team, and you want that for your tight end. Maybe the price is too rich, but he also took a massive dip in his yards per reception last year. If Desmond Ridder can hit the long ball, Pitts will be fine.
Yeah, if I want to channel my inner Dwayne McFarland and start talking about route participation, then Kyle Pitts is still set up for huge success. So.
Certainly.
It is interesting that Pat Freiermuth was a very big fantasy asset, and he's tight end 10 currently, so he's a mid-round.
Cole Kmet going after that. And the anticipated volume there is nuts. I don't like him, but the volume.
Okay, good. We're on the same page, Bob. Thank you.
I'm not saying I like him. I'm just saying the volume's going to be there, right? I mean,
this is the biggest anti-Cole Kmet show you will ever be a part of. Bob, did you know you had as many touchdowns as Cole Kmet?
I did know
in
that,
one
yes.
season. Yeah, that's fantastic.
And as many as Deontay Johnson last year.
Before we get into the Ask Me Anything, I do find it interesting. Dalton Kincaid is currently going tight end 11. So the rookie. So just wanted to put that out there. It's very interesting. Again, it's like going with Dalton Schultz and Chigozimo Okonkwo. It's not like he's beating out like the top tier tight ends, but it's still interesting that a rookie is going that high, considering we've seen historically rookie tight ends tend to not do very well, at least in recent years. So, Josh, I am gonna turn it over to you because you're very excited about this. You even have the caption right there. So,
I mean, I put it on for, I like to try to find segments and stuff that we can do with the guests that kind of correlates back to different things that they do. And Bob over on the Football Diehards channel every Saturday morning does a Ask Me Anything show. So I figured we could end the show with a little passing it over to Bob and say, all right, Bob, ask us anything. It can be fantasy related, non-fantasy related, women of fantasy related, whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me.
All right, let's start out with last concert attended. Can't be a club show. It has to be a big show.
oh boy,
I'll go first.
Go.
I notoriously had never been to a concert until I was 40 years old. And right before last summer's expo, I went to see Run the Jewels and Rage Against the Machine live in Madison Square Garden. So home run on my first and only concert on my 41 years on this planet. So.
Joe.
I'm
He's looking through his gun.
I'm literally looking through my photos because I don't remember the last one. So Josh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's been a while for me too. I think I was back living in Fort Myers, Florida, and it was 2009. I was working with a small record label.
With you people?
I don't know. After a while, like I've performed at shows, I've orchestrated shows, but after a while, I'm just kind of like, when I can't hear the person next to me talking, it's just not as enjoyable. So I don't know.
So I live in Bismarck, North Dakota. So for the last 2.5 years, it's not really any concerts here. But if I had the last one that I am remembering off the top of my head is Carrie Underwood in 2019, I believe. And she was fantastic. So I believe Carrie Underwood was my last concert at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas.
Right. That last big concert I went to was at the American Airlines Center too.
It's a great venue.
Yeah. I've seen Tool there twice, but most recently there also. And I missed a great show draft week here in Dallas, but Mastodon and Gojira would have been awesome. Anyway, Miami running back of choice. You could only have one Miami running back. Who is it?
Larry Zonka.
No.
No, I'll get a real one. Go ahead.
Ages. He's actually older than me.
Yeah, Devin Achane for sure. Give me the speed.
Devon Achane. Come on, Ryan. Pronounce
Devon Achane. Fast guy.
Devon ain't gonna have no
this is a club fantasy, no pun intended show. The answer is and will always be Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Myles Gaskin.
Yes, the garbage man.
Dude, like, in all honesty, like, if I really had to pick one, I know Jeff Wilson. Like that's not probably Jeff Wilson. If gun to my head, it's Jeff Wilson, and I'm gonna hate it, but it's Jeff Wilson.
That is the correct answer, by the way. I mean, there's something they've said for H8. Also in best ball, just draft all three and then wait for Dalvin Cook to show up and ruin your entire
exactly. Life. Yeah, that's what I should have said was Dalvin Cook.
I was going to say, Ryan, that's what you should have said.
I've been conducting that train for 2 months now.
Javonte Williams.
Yes.
Will he play half the season?
God, I hope so.
Are you drafting him like he'll play half the season?
Yeah, I'm a Javonte Williams guy. I was way too high on him last year. It bit me in the ass, and now I'm here for the post-type sleeper part of it. So, yes.
I have him statted out like he will, but I don't love it. And the only reason that I have him statted out like that is because they haven't really made enough moves for me to believe that he won't play at least half the season, if that makes sense.
The fact that they haven't signed Kareem Hunt when that was like all the hype tells me they believe in him more than we do. So
I drafted Adrian Peterson the year after his ACL tear in the 4th round. So I'm still like riding that high that could potentially happen again. So yes, I believe he does. I am a Javonte Williams fan.
Cats or dogs?
Ooh.
Oh, dogs all day.
Yeah, dogs throw up way less.
So
feature, not a bug, man. Come on.
I currently have a cat, and we are thinking about getting a dog. He's actually in the apartment right now.
Oh, breaking news!
I would, dude. Cats are just so chill. Like they are so easygoing. I'm gonna go cats just because like dogs are great. If you just want to do nothing and not have to give a shit sometimes, they just take care of themselves. They are literally self-sufficient.
I will say, as we now want to travel more, I have to pay out the ass to get my dog taken care of.
The cat, literally, I'm expensive.
I'm like, hey, can you literally just come feed her twice a day?
Well, I was gonna say my cat is disciplined enough. I can set up a trough, and I don't even have to check on this dude. So.
Just chilling.
All right, fair enough. So, Scott Fishbowl, live or online?
I've only ever done online. Now that I am in Albany and not far from New York City, I would love to get involved in a live New York City draft. I prefer live drafting. We actually talked about this on the mock draft show on Monday. If you have never, and there is a large portion of our industry and just people like that talk us every day who have only ever played fantasy football online. If you've never done a live draft, figure out a way to make it happen. There's nothing like it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I did it live last year in LA. I'm doing one in Dallas this year.
That's
Super
awesome.
Excited about it. Expo. What's the best part?
Ooh, women of fantasy panel. Duh.
So
yeah. Can I piggyback on that answer? Because I am.
Joe doesn't get to go to the expo, unfortunately.
I haven't been and am unable to go because of my job. So that is yeah, I've never been. So women of fantasy football panel, obviously.
I enjoyed that immensely last year.
I say the women of fantasy panel was awesome. My favorite moment of the expo was when I got to bring Hutch on stage for his first ever question and answer section, and just the look on that at that time 15-year-old kid's face made the expo for me. It was awesome. So
that's a fair win. Okay, Anthony Richardson. When the season is over, will be a quarterback. What?
For the Colts.
For fantasy manager.
Yeah, no. I love rushing quarterbacks. He will be a quarterback 12.
Josh?
I just don't think he's going to pass enough. But I know inevitably people are going to get benched or hurt. He'll be top 15. I think that's as far as I'll go.
I don't think you can put him outside the top 15 because of his rushing upside.
I know right now he's outside of my top 15 in the rankings, and I know he'll ultimately get lower, but I know people will get hurt and benched, whatever. So
I will say 15, so that way I can stick with what I said, even though I think he's a terrible quarterback. He is a running back at the quarterback position, so that's a cheat code.
Steve Young says there's nothing wrong with that.
Won a Super Bowl.
There you have it. All right, last question. If you get the answer right, best guess ever on No Punt Intended.
Ooh, duh, Bob Harris. Come on.
I was ready to shift to oldest if I had to.
I love you, Bob, but I will never say anyone ahead of Stefania Bell.
She was fantastic.
Such a good show, but Bob, you are a very close second.
I will shift to oldest then.
Okay.
Can I say TBD?
Nine times out of 10, we don't know who our guest is. So TBD is a recurring character.
That is facts.
That's a great question. That's awesome.
That is a really good question.
We've had a lot of really good guests, and I hate feeling like I need to rank them because people do ask us that every once in a while. But it really just kind of depends on the moment. Like when I'm smiling, like, oh my God, this was a great show. They were the best guest at that time. And I'll stick with that answer.
I will agree with that and say, I don't ever recall getting off the show and be like, damn, that show sucked. I feel like the guests always bring the energy and it's fun. But again, I'm consistent. I was blown away by Stephania Bell. I would not let Josh talk for an hour. I just kept cutting him off and kicking back to her. Stephania Bell.
And I was okay with it.
So I would say, just generally speaking, having done, I want to say hundreds, but it's probably thousands of radio shows, all of them with guests, that I could legitimately maybe say, I could count the guests that I felt didn't do a great job on one hand and probably on just a couple of fingers. Everyone in the industry does a great job and brings all these wonderful, unique perspectives. Some are truly fantastic, but it's hard to find anyone who doesn't nail this. We're all pretty good at it.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of that, Bob, having listened to plenty of your shows, and to give us kudos because we've been told it by so many times, you got to make your guests feel comfortable too. So like, you'll have people who are scared and you're like, no, just, this is about having fun.
Find their lane.
So,
find their lane.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Thank you, Bob.
Beautiful.
Thanks for playing along, buddy. Appreciate that.
Yes.
That was fun. I enjoyed that. All right. Bob, thank you once again for joining.
Thank you so much.
One more time, if people don't already know, where can they find you?
On the Twitter at Football Diehard, at a website called footballdiehards.com, on a radio show called Football Diehards, and on my YouTube channel, which is surprisingly called the Football Diehards.
Boom. Consistency, my friends.
It's called branding, folks. Take notes.
Yes.
Branding.
Exactly.
Look Inside series full swing. Write-ups on Devontae Adams, Kyle Pitts already up. Chase Claypool of the Bears still to come. 3 new previews are happening each week. Mock It Like It's Hot on Mondays. Ryan does really good with those intros because that's the show he's used to doing. 11 a.m. Eastern. Herstory in the Making, also on BSN Better Sports Network. That is not this upcoming week, the following.
Yeah, the next episode will be on 6/27. So in about 3 weeks.
Thank you, sir. Who's Your Caddy? Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I mean, I haven't heard a bad pick out of Kelly and Adam so far. So they've been really crushing it. Golf DFS. Dynasty After Party, Sundays, 9:30. Whether you're a Dynasty vet or new or suck at it, you should probably listen to that show. So it's fantastic. Sicoli and Joel, correct? Anybody else on that show? I feel like I'm missing one person. But Sicoli and Joel do a fantastic job. For Josh at the One Hudsonian, Bob at Football Diehard, Ryan at Fantasy 5, myself at Joe_Zolo, but more importantly, the Bismarck Larks at Bismarck Larks. Please and thank you. Get me paid. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is Club Fantasy. He's even wearing the shirt. ClubFantasyFFL.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you